Okay, picture this. A super busy city market. It's the end of a long day. The sounds of buying and selling are finally dying down, and all the vendors are starting to pack up. And right there, in that daily routine, a tiny little action happens. Over and over and over again. It's something that seems like no big deal. But as we're about to find out, its impact, well, it's a whole different story. And this really gets to the heart of it, right? Let's just dump it all here. Where else would we take it? It's a pretty common thought. It's just convenient. And when it feels like everyone around you is doing the exact same thing, it's so easy to think, well, this must be the only way. This is where so many of these widespread problems really begin. So, to really get a feel for this, let's head to a bustling market in Surat. I want you to meet Kiran. He runs one of those little tea and snack stalls. And his day, it's a total whirlwind. Customers, orders, cooking, serving, and then, at the very end of it all, there's the cleanup. So what's left after a whole day of business? Well, it's what you see here. End-of-day waste. It's basically a soupy mix of leftover food bits, tea, old water, and all the dirty dishwater. And for a long time, the easy fix, the thing Kiran and all the other vendors did, was to just, pour it right onto the pavement. And the result of that simple action? Well, it's pretty gross, and it happens right away. First, the ground gets all wet. Then, as it starts to dry, it becomes this sticky, grimy mess. Pretty soon, a nasty smell starts to hang in the air, especially as mud and dirt get tracked into it. For people just trying to walk by, it becomes a real obstacle course. Some folks even slip and fall. It's this daily nuisance, all born from a simple daily habit. So this goes on, day in, day out. It's just the norm. Until one evening, someone new stops by Karen's stall. It's an elderly customer, and after he gets his tea, he says something, just a simple observation really, that ends up being the spark that changes absolutely everything. The customer just kind of points out how tricky it is to walk on the pavement there, and Kiran's immediate reaction is what a lot of us would do, right? He gets defensive. He basically says, hey, all the vendors do it. What am I supposed to do? It's that classic go-with-the-flow mentality. If everyone's doing it, how can one person possibly make a difference? But the older man doesn't get into an argument. He just calmly looks at the mess on the ground and says this: if everyone does the same, this won't be a road, it'll become a sewer. There's no anger there, no judgment. Just a quiet, simple, powerful observation. And those words, man, they just hit him. They really land. For the very first time, Kiran actually looks at the pavement, not as his personal dumping spot, but as a space that belongs to everyone. He sees all the stains, the patches of grime, and it clicks. This mess didn't happen overnight. It was built up by thousands of tiny actions, and his were among them. That moment of clarity could have just faded away. But for Kiran, it didn't. It lit a fire. The very next day, he decides, that's it. I'm breaking the habit. He decides he's going to try something new, even if it's just one small thing. And the big, complicated plan he came up with? Well, it was actually incredibly simple. You can see it right here. Instead of just dumping his waste onto the ground, he starts collecting it all in a bucket. Then he just walks a few extra feet past the pavement to a proper drain and pours it out there. That's literally it. Well, let's be real for a second. This wasn't the easy way out. Change hardly ever is. It took a little bit more effort, a little more time, at the end of a day when he was already exhausted. But he did it, and he kept doing it. So the big question is, did it matter? Did this one guy with one bucket actually make a difference? Oh yeah, a huge difference. And the results weren't just something you could see. They started a chain reaction. I mean, just look at this comparison. The change was like night and day. The spot in front of his stall went from a smelly, sticky hazard to a clean, dry space. Suddenly, it was easier for his customers to stand there and order. His whole setup just looked way more professional and inviting. And here's the really cool part. People noticed. The other vendors definitely noticed. They saw that clean patch of pavement in front of Kiran's stall. They saw his customers weren't having to dance around puddles of gunk. And slowly but surely, one vendor, then another, started getting their own buckets out. That one small action started to create a ripple. So this brings us to the real takeaway from this whole story. Because in doing this, Kiran didn't just change a bad habit. No, he completely changed his perspective. He started to understand something much, much deeper about his place in that market. And this is the final, crucial insight he had. He realized that the dirty water he was pouring out, it wasn't just waste. It was a direct reflection of his own business. It was about pride in his work. And on a bigger scale, it was a little piece of the image of his entire city. Kiran's story is such a great reminder that you don't need some grand, sweeping plan or permission from everybody else to make things better. It was just one person with one bucket who started a transformation. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What's one small ripple that you could start today?
एक कदम विकसित भारत की ओर।